Now, let us move forward and classify the different classes of corporations. Of course, like I mentioned, we can classify corporations into public ones and private ones. Now, as to organizers, public corporations are organized by no less than the state. Public corporations in this context are the autonomous regions. Yes, they are public corporations. CAR, regions 1, 2, 3, 4, A and 4B, region 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, Caraga, and now the BARMM or BARM, the federal sub-state of the Bangsamoro, no? Organized within the past 2 years. Lahat yan ay public corporations. As well as the provinces. No? The province of Quezon is a public corporation. As well as the province of Cavite, where I reside. Cities are also public corporations. The city of Manila, which has its own charter. You can search this if you want, no? Republic Act number 409, which is the revised city charter of Manila. Yan yung charter na sinasabi natin kanina. Now, of course, if you take a look, no, there are some public corporations, particularly the older provinces, na wala silang sariling charter under the law. Like for example, the province of Quezon does not have a charter that is a Republic Act or a presidential decree or a batas pambansa. Wala, no? However, where a local government unit does not trace its origins to a charter, its existence is supported and justified by this catch-all law that we call the Local Government Code of, I think, 1991. Okay? So if there is no charter, the Local Government Code. Of course, cities and municipalities, Sariaya is a public corporation. Imus, where I live, is also a public corporation. And finally, the barangays as well. So if it's a local government unit from the top to the bottom, public corporations yan lahat. Now, of course, we also have private corporations which may be constituted or organized by private persons alone. No? Like say, there are 10 of you and you want to incorporate. You want to form a corporation. Very well then, you can form a private corporation. Now, of course, there are also private corporations that are organized with the help of the state. Yung mga sinasabi natin kanina that there are some government-owned and controlled corporations that are actually might as well be considered private corporations. As to function, corporations are also public or private. Public corporations, particularly the local government units, their task, their mandate really is to govern a portion of the state. Mga probinsya, syudad, munisipalidad, barangay. Diba? Ang scope ng kanilang authority ay limited nung meets and bounds nung kanilang territorial jurisdiction. The city government of Imus can only exercise its authority within the borders of the city, as well as the local government of Sariaya hanggang sa territorial boundaries lang nung lugar. Now, of course, as for private corporations, their function really, like partnerships, are for profit. No? Generally or usually, because as we will learn later on in this session, in tonight's session, there are some corporations that are organized not for profit, but for something more altruistic, something that is intended to help society without the expectation of anything in return, without the expectation of profit or reward. But that's the exception, not the rule. As a general rule still, corporations are constituted in order to better aid the incorporators in their pursuit of profit. Public and private pa din ang tawag or ang distinction sa mga korporasyon as to governing laws. Diba? Like I said earlier, public corporations are governed by special laws. In other words, yung kanilang charters. Or if there are no charters, the local government code. Private corporations, meanwhile, are governed by the laws on private corporations, namely the revised corporation code and other similar laws. Now, As to legal status, corporations are either de jure, no? De jure ang pronunciation yan, de jure, no? De jure or de facto. A de jure corporation is organized in accordance with the requirements of the law. Sa madaling sabi, ito yung sumunod sa lahat ng instructions. Ito yung sumunod sa assignment. No, the incorporators duly accomplished the articles of incorporation. They submitted the articles as well as any supporting documents to the SEC. The SEC found merit in the application and issued in due course a certificate of incorporation. That's a de jure corporation for you. Meanwhile, de facto corporations defined under Section 19 of the Revised Corporation Code are those where there exists a flaw in its incorporation. The corporation exists, surely, no? De facto corporations are not precluded from operating. There are some de facto corporations out there that conduct business. But when you take a look at the manner in which it is incorporated, at some point merong mali. Okay? Now, the existence of a de facto corporation can be questioned in court. By whom? By the state, by the government. Through what action? You may or may not be familiar with this. You may or may not have heard of this. Yung tinatawag nating co-warranto. No? I will not expound any further on that. Basta co-warranto. Baka narinig nyo na kasi nabalita yan eh. But that is the procedural vehicle, that is the case that the government needs to file in order to question the existence of a de facto corporation. Diyan sa co-warranto proceeding na yan, i-establish yung mali. Ano ba yung flaw that attended the incorporation of this entity? Yan. In order to strike down, essentially, the existence of this corporation. Now, a de facto corporation can be broken down into these core parts. Of course, a de facto corporation traces its existence to a valid law under which it may have been incorporated. So, for example, the Revised Corporation Code is a valid law. It outlines the requisites that interested individuals or groups should comply with in order to form a corporation. So yan, the existence of a valid law. Next, there must be an attempt in good faith. So basically, ang akala ng mga naging corporate sa isang de facto corporation, ang akala nila wala silang ginagawang mali. Ang akala nila walang kulang doon sa kanilang compliance. So there is an attempt in good faith to incorporate. Now, take note, the issuance of a certificate of incorporation by the SEC is a minimum requirement of continued good faith. So basically, for example, mayroong kulang doon sa sinubmit doon sa SEC. Ngayon ang SEC nag-issue pa rin ng certificate. There is, at the very least, a de facto corporation. Okay? Now, of course, kung kumpleto yung mga dokumento na ipinasa, walang kulang, walang mali, walang questionable, there is substantial compliance, and of course, the resulting entity, like we mentioned earlier, is a de jure corporation. Kasi there is substantial or at most full compliance. Pero if colorable compliance lang, yun nga, if there is some kind of deficiency at a particular stage in it, de facto lang yung korporasyon. For example, no? Interested incorporators submitted their application online because the SEC, as we will learn later, has an online registration system. So all of the forms that need to be filled out, they filled them out, all of them. However, some mandatory entries nakalimutang lagyan ng sagot. However, siguro dahil pagod din ang mga nagbabantay, yung mga punong abala sa SEC, nevertheless, notwithstanding the missing information, the SEC still issued a certificate of incorporation. So at the very least, there is colorable compliance, and as a result, the corporation that is formed is not de jure, but merely de facto. Now, in another case, no, in the case of Sawadjan versus Court of Appeals, in a decision by the Supreme Court in 2005, ang sinabi, when a corporation failed to submit its bylaws, this is another document that we will discuss tonight, a corporation may be considered a de facto corporation. Kasi noong time na to, meron pang time frame within which to submit your bylaws. No? After a corporation is formed, merong specific period na kailangan mo nang isubmit yung bylaws. Or para lang maintindihan na ninyo this early, ito yung internal rules governing the day-to-day dealings of a corporation. So yung nitty-gritty ng pagpapatakbo ng business nando dun sa bylaws. In the old corporation code, kailangan masubmit mo yan kagad sa SEC. Ngayon, in this 2005 decision, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, kung hindi na-submit ng korporasyon on time yung bylaws, yung kanilang existence ay nare-reduce into a de facto status, no? Yung kanilang existence, de facto na lang. Okay? So that's the gist of Sawadjaan versus CA. Now, finally, a de facto corporation, in order that we can say na de facto nga siya, there must be use of corporate powers. Kaya ako sinabi kanina na somewhere out there, some corporations na nakikita ninyo na inactive business, these corporations that make use of their corporate powers, meron dyan, de facto lang. No? Now, we also have this entity that we call corporation by estoppel, na parang kapareho lang din ng partnership by estoppel. Ganon-ganon lang din ang underlying principle, no? There is a group of persons holding themselves out as a corporation. Parang partnership by estoppel lang din. And this group enters into a contract with a third person. Ngayon itong third person na to ay napaniwala ng misrepresentations nitong group na to. Ang akala niya, meron talagang korporasyon. Now later on, if this third person files a case in order to hold this alleged corporation liable, sabihin natin itong third person ay nagpautang dito sa grupo na to. Akala nitong third person may korporasyon. So ngayon, lumipas yung mga buwan, the obligation to pay became due and demandable. Nag-furnish ng formal demand itong si third person sa grupo, addressed to the corporation, formally demanding payment of the debt. Otherwise, sinabi, I will be constrained to institute the necessary action in court to collect what is due to me. Yan. But notwithstanding demand, no, this group failed to satisfy the obligation. And therefore, as a result, the group ended up being in legal delay. The group was placed in default. Feeling aggrieved, the third person filed a case in court finally for collection of sum of money. Ngayon, sabi nung grupo, the case should be dismissed because yung defendant na nakalagay doon sa complaint, this corporation, this alleged corporation, sabi ng grupo, Your Honor, this corporation does not exist. Wala po talagang korporasyon kahit nahanapin nyo pa po sa SEC, sa records ng SEC, wala pong korporasyon na ganyan ng pangalan. All right? Is that defense meritorious? The answer, of course, is no. Because this group held themselves out as a corporation. And the other person that they contracted with believed in good faith, relied in good faith on this representation or rather misrepresentation. Therefore, the group cannot be permitted to deny the existence of the corporation. Okay? But strictly speaking, of course, a corporation by estoppel is not a real corporation. Just like a partnership by estoppel, limited ang kanyang existence only with regard to allowing prejudiced third persons to seek liability, to enforce liability dito sa mga unscrupulous individuals na ito. Of course, there is a dichotomy that comes into play with regard to corporations by estoppel. Yung with fraud or without fraud dichotomy, as I would call it. Those who assume to act as a corporation, knowing it to be without authority, are liable as general partners. Yan. I hope you still remember what the distinction between a general partner and a limited partner. I think fresh pa naman yun sa alaala ninyo. Can we give it a try? Can anybody enlighten me or jog my memory as to what the difference is between a general partner and a limited partner. Can anybody volunteer on this?
Sir?
Yes, Shena, you are recognized.
Sir, ang pagkakaalam ko po sa general partnership saka limited partnership. Pag general partnership, sila ay may rights to vote yung mag-elect po. Samantalang sa limited partnership po ay hindi.
That is true. That is correct, no? Shena. Partly, tama 'yun. Kasi ang general partners, mas marami yung kanilang kayang gawin kaysa sa limited partners. Part of which is the responsibility of voting. But the answer I am looking for is with regard to liability. Diba? General partners can be held liable up to the extent of their personal properties. Kapag wala nang mapigang properties kay partnership, the debtors, the creditors of the partnership can pursue the general partners. So, wala nang property si partnership na pwedeng ipambayad sa kanyang creditors. Si creditors, pwede niyang i-assail si general partner. Si general partner mako-constrain na magbayad using his or her own personal properties. Si limited partner, hindi siya pwedeng habulin ng ganun. No? Only up to the extent of a limited partner's contribution to the partnership. At kapag naubos ang properties, na-exhaust yung properties ng partnership, si limited partner, hindi siya obligado na maglabas ng kanyang personal funds in order to settle the debts of the partnership. So, ganon. No? For example, yung scenario na sinabi natin kanina in the previous slide, itong si grupo which held themselves out as a corporation. If they knew, or rather, they knew doon sa scenario natin, di ba, that they are not in fact a corporation. They knew that they had no authority to act as a corporation. They can be held liable as general partners. Okay? Pwedeng habulin. No? Yung kanilang common properties, yung pinul together nila in misrepresenting themselves as a corporation, pag yun ay naubos, pwedeng habulin yung individual members ng grupo up to the extent of their personal properties. Ngayon, kung merong mga tao dun sa grupo na actually, no, nadamay lang, hindi naman nila alam na meron na palang ganung kalokohang nagaganap. Hindi nila alam na yung kanilang group mates they represent themselves to other people as a corporation. Pero nalista yung pangalan nila kasi they hang around with the group. So they had no role to play, and therefore fraud cannot be attributed to these persons. They can only be held liable to the same extent as a limited partner. Yan ang yun yung difference. Now, we also have what we call a corporation by prescription. Kagaya nung sinabi ko about the province of Quezon, no? Wala siyang organic law unlike Manila and other places. Pero, no, even before the enactment of the Local Government Code in 1991, matagal nang nag-i-exist ang Quezon. No? From the post-World War II years up to the present, there always has been a province of Quezon. Now, wala siyang organic law, wala siyang charter, but it has always been recognized as a local government unit. It has always been recognized as a province and will be forever. No? No formal organization, no law, no anything. But, the fact that it has been recognized as a corporation, as a public corporation for so long, it has become what we call a corporation by prescription. Ganon din, no? Ganon din ang sitwasyon ng simbahang Katolika. No? Baka mamaya may non-Catholics dito. This is not, hindi naman to bad thing na the Roman Catholic Church is a corporation by prescription. You see, the Roman Catholic Church has existed for so long, not only in this country, but elsewhere in the world, na wala siyang registration sa SEC. Okay? Kasi, in all fairness, the Roman Catholic Church predated the SEC. May simbahang Katolika na dito sa Pilipinas, wala pang SEC. So, like the province of Quezon, the church has existed for so long, that at present it is being treated as a corporation by prescription. Wala siyang articles of incorporation. Wala siyang certificate of incorporation. Wala siyang record sa gobyerno na korporasyon siya, but still it is a corporation. Now, in comparison, dahil na-raise na nga natin yung matter on the Roman Catholic Church, the other dominant religions or religious denominations here in the Philippines, namely the INC, no, the Iglesia ni Cristo, baka may taga-INC dito. So the INC has a SEC registration, as well as the foremost group of Muslims, no, the Imam Council of the Philippines. The Imam Council is also SEC registered. Because as you know, as we will study in a bit, no, religious corporations are a thing. Merong ganyan, no? At rehistrado din ang mga religious corporations with the government. Again, with the sole exception of the Roman Catholic Church, which is so old, has existed for so very long, has existed for 2,000 years, give or take, plus, no? That they have no government records, they have no official registration, they have become corporations by prescription. Now, we can also distinguish corporations as to the existence of stocks. Meron bang stocks to? Wala. You see, no? If you try, meron na bang app ang Call Financial? Kasi, has any of you heard of the man named Bo Sanchez? Kilala nyo ba si Bo Sanchez? Or kung hindi nyo pa man napupuntahan yung mga The Feast niya, na kasi di ba meron siyang yun The Feast, primarily sa PICC in, saan ba ang PICC? Pasay or Manila? Pasay. Meron ding mga The Feast elsewhere in the Philippines na kung hindi man si Brother Bo yung pumupunta doon in person to facilitate the thing, yung kanyang mga team, no, yung kanyang mga tao. Brother Bo preaches though he is a Catholic, no, his manner of preaching involves, studying the Bible, enriching your personal relationship with God, and financial literacy. No, hindi naman siya yung kagaya ng mga mega preacher, especially in the States, na nagpapamudmud ng pera. He's not like that. He gives, no, the people or the people who visit his preaching sessions, he gives them the know-how in order for the people to make their own informed decisions. Now, I am taking a look at the App Store. No, wala palang app ang Call Financial. But you see, there are other entities like insurance companies. They are already, I think Sun Life is already engaged in, parang brokering ng stocks na they assist interested people who want to buy their own stocks. Like for example, no, actually, kahit na hindi ka gumagamit ng Call Financial or what have you, you can actually try looking at the website of the Philippine Stock Exchange. So, i-google mo lang Philippine Stock Exchange. Tapos makikita mo doon, no? You will be allowed a glimpse, no? As long as you know where to look. Ito, like for example, ito, close ang market kasi nagko-close ang daily stock market like 3 or 4 p.m. every day. Like dito, no, as of May 13, so that's yesterday, nag-close ang stock market alas 3 ng hapon kahapon. Makikita mo yung mga most, if you're looking at you know what, I'll switch the screen so you can take a look. No, I'll stop sharing this presentation and then I will share my browser so you can take a look. We can all take a look at the Philippine Stock Exchange together. Para makikita ninyong ibig kong sabihin. You see, it's one thing to study the law na puro theory lang. No, it's well and good that you know what the law says. It's well and good that you know what the law does not say. But it's a different matter altogether that especially for you guys na mga undergrad, na mga non-law students or non-lawyers, non-legal professionals, mas mahalaga na alam nyo kung paano i-apply ang batas in practice. Because that's where your competency will lie. in actual practice. Kapag kayo tinanong ng mga bosses ninyo balang araw, hindi naman kayo tatanungin ng what does this article say, what does this section say. Tatanungin kayo ng mga technical things. Compliant ba itong korporasyon na yung korporasyon na binubuo natin doon sa requirements, no? Ano ba kulang natin? Mga ganong matters. So it's better that you see the actuality, how these things are applied in real life. Ito. This is the website of the Philippine Stock Exchange where you can see the different movements, no, yung kung tumataas ba ang value ng stock ng isang given corporation, kung bumababa ba. I'm pretty sure you've heard of the news, no, after the elections. Now, tapos naman na ang eleksyon. Wala naman ng partisan political activity. I believe we can talk freely about the elections at this point. Merong bali-balita, though of course I don't actively otherwise follow yung movements ng stock market because I myself have no stocks in my name yet, no? Saka na pag tumaas yung sweldo ko. But anyway, I digress. Na after the elections, because in all fairness, this election has been very divisive. No? Without going into further specifics, totoo naman, it has been very divisive and it had an effect on the stock market. Nag-dip yata I think in the 2 to 3 days following the elections, nag-dip yung stock market. Bumaba yung value ng mga stocks. Naging, I think the term is bearish, no? Bullish pag maganda, bearish pag hindi. Now, like for example, ito, like I said, the stock market closed yesterday, 3 p.m. So, nagpapahinga din naman siya over the weekend. You can see the most active stocks, no? Teka, pwede ba nating lakihan so you can see it better? Yan. This one, no, titignan natin. Let us take a look at the most active markets, the most active stocks, no, and which corporations are those. Personally, I think BDO, if you balang araw kapag kayo ay nagtatrabaho na and you think you already have enough funds to buy stocks with. Ang laging advice ko for the newbies would be bibili kayo dun sa stable. No? Parang life and relationships lang yan. Doon tayo sa may stability. Yung mga may stability, in this context, yung mga korporasyon na malabong malugi. I mean, of course, hindi natin masasabi, bilog ang bola and all that. But there are some corporations that are more stable than others. Like for example, SM. For example, BDO. Very active ang stocks nila. No? For example, ito, BDO. Let us click BDO. And then you can see the information. Now, this is BDO is of course BDO Unibank Incorporated. This is a corporation. BDO merged with Unibank. Unibank is of course previously a separate bank. So ngayon, after the merger, the surviving entity is now called BDO Unibank Incorporated. Apparently, bumaba yung value ng stocks niya by negative 1.18% as of Friday. No? Now, of course, nakalagay dito open. So, ibig sabihin, you can buy stocks of BDO. If you can, no? Another one. So, that's BDO. Ang pinaka-active apparently is Mond. I think this is Mond yung gumagawa ng mga cookies. No, I might be wrong. Mond, the food company. Yeah, I'm right, no? Mond Nissin. So, again, Mond was previously another company that existed by itself. And of course, Nissin, you know what Nissin is, no? Wala naman siguro sa inyo na hindi kumakain ng noodles dito, no? So you know Nissin, you know Mond, no? Mond in my day kasi, Mond gumagawa ng mga cupcake, mga pastries yata and whatnot. So they merged and the surviving entity is Mond Nissin. So now they are Mond Nissin Corporation. They are one of a rare breed lately kasi yun nga sinabi ko, nag-dip yung value ng mga stocks pero sa kanila tumaas at malaki ang itinaas ng value, no? That's 5.59%. That increase in value is no joke. No joke, no? Yan nga, no? Makikita mo business nila, food, beverage and tobacco. That's a surprise. I don't know kung ano yung pinoproduce ng tobacco product and as I'm a non-smoker, I don't want to know. But anyway, status open. You can buy stocks of Mond, no? If you want to. So, tanggalin natin yan. Let us take a look at another one. Let us take a look at this one, CNVRG. right at the outset, if you're tracking the stock market, makikita ninyo, naka-acronym yung kanilang, yung code ng mga stock which pertains to different companies. Ganun talaga. It helps, no? Na brief lang. So, madali mong matitipa na, okay, this pertains to, of course, if CNVRG, this is Converge, no? Converge. Question na hindi related sa subject. There is, ano ang internet service provider sa Sariaya, sa Quezon? I suppose PLDT and Globe are there. But is Converge available in Quezon?
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Yes,
Neneth.
sir.
And Dinah. So, okay. Nag-expand na sila. No wonder tumaas ang value ng kanilang stock if they are aggressively expanding. Kasi you see, medyo nag-suffer ng dip ang Converge before. Kasi initially, nung unang labas nila, ang comments ng lahat ay, wow, ang bilis. Kasi konti pa lang yung sineservisyohan, especially in Metro Manila. My workmate, my division mate sa OSG, used Converge. Ngayon ako naman, PLDT naman ako dito sa bahay at ayoko na sanang magpalit kahit na parang napaka-tempting na mag-Converge kasi yun nga, medyo malaki na yung binabayaran ko dito sa internet ko sa PLDT. Enough internet speed to support a computer shop. And I think it's a justified expense considering na yun nga, nagtuturo tayo, kailangan ng matinong internet, no, yung hindi iiyak pag marami yung naka-connect sa Teams o sa Google Meet or sa Zoom. Anyway. So ngayon, nung medyo lumaki-laki yung sineservisyoan ni Converge, medyo hindi kinaya ng infrastructure nila. Most subscribers of Converge complained na ang bagal ng internet namin. Hindi naman ganito yung advertise kasi yun nga ang thrust ng Converge, fast internet, no? Kaya naming kalabanin si PLDT at saka si Globe, no? So apparently, since Converge seems to be aggressively expanding, they are benefiting from a surge in the value of their stock. Mataas din ang 4.72% increase. So yan. So nakikita ninyo that right there is the stock market. Tingnan natin yung mga pinaka nag-decline. No, I don't know these. Sige, out of curiosity, let us take a look at the yung may pinaka ito mababa lang yung value niya, 9,000. Let us see what is I, no? What company is this? So curious. I-remit. I have never heard of this. Ang laki ng ibinaba ng kanyang stock, no? If you are the adventurous type at gusto mong, you like to live on the edge, kumbaga. You don't want to play it safe. Ito yung mga tipo na dahil mababa yung value ng kanyang stock, if you want to aggressively buy stocks in this company, now is the time. Kasi ang baba ng value niya, ito, value niya 9,090 pesos. You can buy if you have 10,000 at the moment, pwede ka nang bumili ng isang share dito sa iRemit. If you have more, volume ng stocks niya 11,000 shares of stock. Kung mayaman ka na gusto mong kunin yung majority ng stocks nito, babilin mo na. Kasi ang baba ng value niya, ang laki ng ibinaba, negative 11.24. But anyway, again, I personally would not do that kasi yun nga, hindi ko nga kilala yung kumpanya. So I have no idea kung aakyat pa yung value niyan kasi the only reason why you would buy a corporation's shares if you want to engage in the stock market is you do not intend to hold on to the share forever. Habang mababa yung value niya, bilhin mo. Bili ka ng marami. Kapag tumaas yung value niya, and of course, demand also would increase, no? Alongside the value of the stock, pwede mo na siyang i-let go, pwede mo na siyang ibenta. Ganon. Parang cryptocurrency lang din yan if you were delving into crypto. But yeah, that's enough of the stock market for tonight. Let us go back to the presentation. So ano ang significance nun? I have just given you a sneak peek as to how stock corporations work. Stock corporations are corporations in which capital stock is divided into shares. stock corporations are authorized to distribute to holders dividends or allotments of the surplus profits on the basis of the shares held. But as we will learn later on, hindi lahat ng mga shareholders actually ay or rather may karapatan sa dividends. Like for example, if you bought one share in SM, hindi ibig sabihin no, na shareholder ka per se, makakatanggap ka na ng dividendo. Not necessarily. Kasi merong specific shares na kinakailangan meron ka. As a general rule, yung mga voting shares. Kapag meron kang say sa policy direction ng korporasyon, if the corporation cannot exercise yung mga tinatawag nating specific powers without your vote, without consulting you first, di ba? Kung wala kang ganun, wala kang dividends. But again, no, if you're just merely participating in the stock market and you are using it as a venture for passive income, it doesn't matter. But you see, yan ang stock corporations. Their stocks are publicly available and people can buy them. Now, on the other hand, non-stock corporations, of course, narinig nyo rin yung mga yan. Maraming non-stock corporations. Of course, you know a corporation is a non-stock corporation kung hindi mo siya makikita sa PSE. Wala siya sa stock exchange, hindi publicly traded yung kanyang stock. Kasi wala siyang stock. Okay? For example, Gawad Kalinga is a non-stock corporation. Kahit halugugin mo yung PSE, wala kang mabibili o makikita man lang na shares ng Gawad Kalinga. Because it has no stocks. Okay? Same din with educational and religious corporations. Like I said, no, INC and the imam, yung asosasyon ng mga imam, no, they are also registered as corporations. But you cannot buy shares of stock nitong mga korporasyon na to. You cannot institute a corporate takeover of the imam group, no? Walang ganon because their stocks are numbered 0. Wala. Ganon din ang CSTC. Actually, no, ang ating school, it's also a corporation, no, incorporated nga, di ba, CSTC incorporated. Wala siyang stocks because it is not organized for profit. Though of course, baka mamaya you would argue otherwise kasi ano ba yan, sir? Paano hindi for profit? Nagbabayad kami ng miscellaneous fee, ng library fee, ng ano pa to? Yung mga underclassmen ninyo, syempre nagbabayad ng PE fee. I think it's part of miscellaneous kahit na nasa bahay lang naman kayong lahat. Tapos sir, sasabihin nyo sa amin not for profit. Oo, kasi kagaya ng partnership, di ba? Ano yung natutunan natin sa partnership? There can be other purposes other than profit making. But so long as, di ba? Ano ba to sa partnership? So long as the primary purpose is for profit, it does not defeat the essence of the partnership. Kahit na mayroong mga altruistic purposes pa yan. Na ngayon, inversely, as for educational corporations like our school, the fact na for pay, yung education dito sa eskwelahan, does not make it any less of an educational corporation. Because notwithstanding the tuition fee, the purpose has been, is, and will always be the teaching and the education of students that will be the future leaders and movers of this country. Next. Kaso wala si Father Harris para marinig to. Sayang. Anyway, more on stock corporations, like I said earlier, no? I am pretty sure, teka, wala naman siguro sa inyo na walang Twitter account, right? Sa henerasyon ninyo, that's the holy trinity of social media apps eh. Facebook, Insta, Twitter. And of course, yung trinity naging 4, naging quartet, naging Fab 4 kasi TikTok. But of course, I would understand if not all of you have it. Because, well, TikTok is an acquired taste. No? It's not everybody's thing. Pero at this point in time, if you do not have these 3 apps, no, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, we can say na you're missing something. No? In order for you to be completely informed of what's going on in the world, you have to have those 3. And anyway, that's just what I think. You see kasi, Twitter, for context, is a publicly traded company. Twitter is a stock corporation. Elon Musk, no, the genius behind PayPal. Yeah, PayPal is his baby. As well as the electronic cars, no, of Tesla. And no, Tesla is also building rockets for travel to Mars, I think. As well as some other ventures niya. Meron siyang crypto venture, the Dogecoin, if you've heard of it. Now, the current apple of Elon Musk's eye is Twitter. He has announced previously that he will do a corporate takeover of Twitter. Kasi feeling niya Twitter is not adequately attending to free speech concerns, no? Twitter is not being Twitter is currently not the safe space for expression that it purports to be. Something like that. So ngayon, si Elon, he aggressively, dahil mayaman nga siya, marami siyang business endeavors, may pambili siya ng sangkaterbang stock. So, binili niya, as of April 6, 2022, stocks amounting to 9.2% of the company. Which when added to his original tawag dito, when added to his other acquisitions of Twitter, ang kailangan niyang makuha, no, in order for him to achieve his takeover is 14.9%. So he is almost he's actually beyond 50% of his goal already. And soon enough, he may be the CEO of Twitter. Possible yung mga corporate takeovers na yan only in stock corporations. Makikita mo na kahit na sa mga nobela, kahit na sa mga TV series, ganyan, di ba? Maririnig niyan, corporate takeover. O itong si taong ito, this supporting character or this antagonist bought a majority of the shares of the company. At ngayon, siya na ang boss, di ba? Especially for the ladies, sa mga at least some Korean series that I know of, or sa mga ibang shoujo manga that I've heard, ganyan yung ano niya, mayroong ganyang plot twist or plot development. Possible lang yan sa stock corporations. All because of the existence of stocks, no? Stock corporations again issue shares of stock to shareholders, also known as stockholders, in order to raise capital. So basically, no, yan ang rason kung bakit when you buy stock, you become part owner of a corporation. Basically, by paying for a share of stock, you are giving the corporation capital. So nakita nyo dun si Iremit, no? Magkano yung kada isang share niya at this point in time as of Friday 3 p.m? 9,090 pesos. So whenever somebody buys a share of stock and pays 9,090 pesos, they are essentially helping save the company kasi they are fueling new fresh capital to the corporation. And again, yun nga, ultimately, in exchange for this fresh capital, when you buy a share of stock, you get something that represents partial ownership of the corporation. Now, of course, depende sa share of stock na nabili mo kasi there are voting shares, there are non-voting shares, and more often than not, yung shares na publicly traded sa PSE, mga non-voting shares yan. Yung for passive income purposes mo lang, pwede mong i-hold, pwede mong ibenta pag mataas na yung value niya, etc., etc. But there are special shares of stock that allow you to participate in the policy making, in the decision making of the corporation, yung mga voting stocks. Yan. These shares that grant shareholders certain ownership rights that shape company policies. Now, pupunta na tayo sa educational corporation, no? Corporations formed not for profit, but for an educational purpose, particularly the establishment and maintenance of a school. Incidentally, no, educational corporations are non-stock corporations, like I mentioned earlier, kaya walang corporate takeover sa school. Wala, ni sa bigger educational institutions like the Ateneo or LaSalle, wala kayong maririnig na merong pamilya na bought a majority of the shares of stock of the school and now sila na ang namumuno sa eskwelahan. Walang ganon. Because educational corporations are non-stock. Not necessarily for profit, pwedeng magpabayad like private schools, no? But the primary principal purpose is the establishment and maintenance of a school. In other words, education of students or pupils. Religious corporations naman pertain to domestic non-profit corporations that are either a church or an integrated auxiliary of a church. Now, a religious corporation may be a corporation sole or a religious society. So, ang religious corporation, meron siyang dalawang subcategory. A corporation sole is a special form of corporation usually associated with the clergy and consists of one person only and his successors who are incorporated by law to give some legal capacities and advantages. For example, no? Like I said, the Roman Catholic Church in the Philippines is not registered as a corporation. However, its existence, its corporate existence, partakes of the nature of a corporation by prescription. Through sheer passage of time, no, its corporate existence has solidified. However, yung mga diocese niya, like for example, the Diocese of Manila, Archdiocese of Manila rather, the Diocese of Imus here in Cavite, the Diocese of Cubao, Quezon City, pwedeng mangyari na yung incumbent archbishop niya or incumbent bishop niya would apply for the issuance of a certificate of incorporation in the context of a corporation sole, such that it would aid the diocese, for example, to better manage its properties. Na, for example, simbahan, Diocese of Imus. Kung walang corporation sole, for example, or rather, sige, para mas madali kasi hindi ko kilala yung bishop namin dito sa Imus Nakakahiyaman sabihin. Archdiocese of Manila kasi wala naman sigurong hindi nakakakilala kay Cardinal Chito Tagle, no? Cardinal Tagle wants to buy a lot, no? In Intramuros kasi nandoon ang Manila Cathedral. So, gusto niyang magpatayo ng learning center para sa mga bata ng Intramuros, no? Gusto niyang bumili ng isa sa mga lumang lote doon para doon itayo yung school. Kung walang corporation sole, at yun nga dahil walang records ang Roman Catholic Church sa SEC, and therefore, strictly speaking, kung wala siyang records, hindi mo pwedeng ipangalan sa Roman Catholic Church yung property. Kasi while it is a corporation by prescription, strictly speaking under the law, wala siyang corporate personality as far as the SEC is concerned. Okay? Pwedeng ma-assail yung ownership ng property. Paano re-remedyohan yun? No? Pwede bang ipangalan na lang kay Archbishop, kay Cardinal Tagle yung property? Hindi naman pwede. No? Kasi kung sakasakali na mayroong masamang hangin na umihip, bigla niyang iwanan yung pagkapari niya, di pwede niyang angkinin yung lote kung saan itatayo yung learning center. Kasi nakapangalan sa kanya, di ba? In order to avoid that, dioceses, no, are advised to constitute corporations sole. Basically, ang korporasyon in this context would be the Archdiocese of Manila, represented by the incumbent archbishop or cardinal. Ganon ang mangyayari. So, if the archdiocese wants to buy, if Cardinal Tagle wants to buy that lot for the construction of a learning center, ngayon meron ng juridical entity na pwedeng ilagay bilang owner or title holder noong lote. Ang ilalagay na title holder is the corporation sole by the name of the Archdiocese of Manila. Yan ang magic dyan. Kaya meron tayong corporation sole in order to avoid the exact kind of problem that I described to you just a moment ago. Diba? Corporation law is amazing, class. Now, on the other hand, we have what we call religious societies. A religious society is a non-stock corporation formed by a religious society, group, diocese, synod, or district, or of any religious denomination, sect, or church after getting the approval of 2/3 of its members. I would think that the Iglesia ni Cristo is one such society. Like I mentioned a while ago, the INC is of course a religious corporation. Which kind, no? Definitely not a corporation sole, but a religious society. Now, ito, no, for example, I am showing you a particular kind of religious corporation. This is a religious corporation that operates a school. This is the Colegio de San Jose in Haro, Iloilo. No? The Colegio de San Jose wrote a letter dated January 22, 2019 to the SEC. Kasi ang SEC, aside from overseeing the different business organizations and entities in the country, whether partnership or corporation or otherwise, trabaho din nila na magbigay ng legal opinion pag may mga korporasyon na nagtatanong sa kanila, nagsasangguni ng mga issue o kaya mga problema. Ngayon, ang tanong ni Colegio de San Jose sa SEC, ang corporate term ba ni Colegio de San Jose ay 50 years lang o habang buhay? Just to supply you with the necessary context, back when the old corporation law or corporation code was the prevailing law, corporations had a maximum corporate existence of 50 years. So in other words, kung hindi na amyendahan yung corporation code natin, yung for example, SM Corporation, no, SMIC, SM Investment Corporation. Ang corporate existence niya ay hanggang 50 taon lang. Of course, subject to renewal, pero hindi siya habang buhay. Now, of course, no, as extended, kapag in-extend yung 50 years, the corporation might even outlive us, no? Pero it will still die. Okay? The corporate existence will still end. So diyan pumapasok yung concern ni Colegio de San Jose. What will govern or what will apply with regard to a religious corporation? Will it be the general rule under the corporation code, the old code, which limits the term of corporate existence to 50 years? Or will it be perpetual? Possibly in the context of, you know, the Catholic Church at large, di ba? As a corporation by prescription, it has always been considered to possess a corporate existence. Now, so ang sabi ni Colegio de San Jose, it is a corporation sole. It has SEC registration, no? Registered with the SEC on March 1, 1915. So corporation sole, ano ba ang term of existence niya? 50 years o habang buhay? Ang sabi ng SEC, the corporate term of Colegio de San Jose is perpetual. Because, saan na ba yun? Saan na ba kasunod nito? Nawala, no? Anyway, wala na palang hindi ko pala nilagay yung kasunod na part ng letter na to. Basta perpetual siya. Bakit? Because of a previous opinion by the SEC stating na religious corporations have perpetual existence. Unlike, you know, profit-based or profit-driven corporations. Kasi, ang religious corporation, pinipresuppose talaga, inherent in its very existence na habang buhay yan. Dahil ang relihiyon, or ang pananampalataya sa may kapal o kung sino man ang pinaniniwalaan ng relihiyon in question, hindi mo naman yan pwedeng tuldukan, no? Faith transcends time. Basically, yun yung gist ng opinion. Tapos, dahil na at this point in time, nitong petsa na sinagutan ng SEC itong sulat na to ng Colegio de San Jose, nag-take effect na yung revised corporation code. Ang bumanat ang SEC na actually, at this point in time, corporations now have, as a general rule, perpetual existence. Whether it is a religious corporation or a profit-driven or commercial corporation, lahat yan, unless the incorporators want their corporation to have finite or to have a limited existence, ang general rule ngayon, kahit na anong korporasyon pa yan, the corporation or any corporation has a perpetual corporate life. Yan. Now, we move to the matter of distinguishing corporations as to the law of incorporation. We have domestic corporations and we have foreign corporations. Of course, a domestic corporation is one that is formed, organized, or existing under the laws of the Philippines. Lamoyan Corporation, Jollibee Foods Corporation, lahat ng mga korporasyon na binuo dito. Meanwhile, a foreign corporation outlined under Section 140 of the Revised Corporation Code, a foreign corporation is one that is formed, organized, or is existing under any laws other than those of the Philippines, and whose laws allow Filipino citizens and corporations to do business in its own country. Of course, no? Twitter is a foreign corporation. Facebook as well is a foreign corporation. Ganon din ang Google, no? These are all foreign corporations because they were formed, they were organized, and they are existing under the laws kung saan sila kinonstitute. I think they are all American, no? American corporations, US. Kasi lahat yan ay binuo sa states. Now, we move forward to what we call closed corporations. A closed corporation is one whose articles of incorporation provide that the number of stockholders shall not exceed 20. So merong cap sa stockholders. Hindi kagaya nung mga korporasyon na nakita natin sa stock exchange na panigurado may sangkaterbang stockholders. In a closed corporation, merong cap hanggang 20 lang. Parang sasakyan, parang Greyhound na jeep. Na tig-Gs lang ang sasakay sa magkabila. A closed corporation as well also contains a restriction on the transfer of issued stocks. Closed corporations, hindi mo yan makikita sa stock exchange. Precisely because, yun nga, they are limiting who can acquire and or dispose of their shares of stock. If you want to be one of these 20 individuals, if you want to buy a share of stock in a closed corporation, kailangan mo silang dayuhin doon sa opisina nila. And even then, that is not a guarantee that you will be given the chance to acquire a share of stock. Kasi more often than not, a closed corporation is operated by family members and relatives. And most of the time, they want to keep it that way. So hindi sila nagpapapasok ng outsiders most of the time. No? Yan ang closed corporations, mga family corporations, no, na maliliit lang. Now, some businesses cannot be constituted within the ambit of a closed corporation. Mining companies, oil companies, hindi yan pwedeng closed corporation. Stock exchanges, banks, hindi pwedeng closed corporation yan. Insurance companies, public utilities, schools, educational institutions, and all other corporations na ang purpose ay imbued with public interest, all of these cannot be closed corporations. So yung mga for example, no, a small restaurant with a well-guarded family recipe, no, operated as a closed corporation. Ganyan. Pwedeng closed corporation yan. Kasi yun nga, you are trying to keep all of it within the family only. So panigurado, limited din yung number of stockholders, limited din yung means by which a person can acquire a share of stock in that corporation. Yan ang closed corporations class. Like I said, di ba? Often run by family members wherein the management of the corporation is purposely restricted within the family or a small circle of trusted individuals. Now, we go to one of the salient features of the Revised Corporation Code. Dati walang ganito. Ngayon lang nagkaroon. Unlike a partnership where, you need to be at least 2 persons, like any contract. There can be something that we call a one-person corporation. You can form a corporation all by yourself. A one-person corporation or an OPC is a corporation with a single stockholder. Ikaw lang mag-isa, all by yourself. The single stockholder can only be a natural person, a trust, or an estate. Okay? So sabi mo, gusto kong bumuo ng korporasyon para sa aking printing business. Ngayon, sino ang nagtatao sa printing business mo? Ikaw lang, no? You proceed to apply for a certificate of incorporation with the SEC, no? You send in your articles of incorporation. You specify that you wish to form a one-person corporation. Can that be done? Yes, because in the revised corporation code, OPCs can be formed. One-person corporations are a thing now. Okay? Next, we have what we call a corporation going public. A corporation going public is one that decides to list its shares in the stock exchange. In the Philippines, that's the PSE. So, a corporation going public includes new corporations, no, that will make initial public offerings, yung mga tinatawag nating IPO. Maririnig nyo yan. O mayroong bagong korporasyon or mayroong korporasyon na for the very first time, they will be offering their stocks to the public. Yung tinatawag na initial public offering. Hanap tayo ng sample, no? This, ano ba to? Ito, yan. Let me switch my share screen. Pakita ko sa inyo. This is an article by Rappler, no? Very recent, March 28, 2022. So a new company by the masterful, richest person in the Philippines, Manny Villar. He has a company named Vista Right. I don't know how to pronounce that. Vista Right is a real estate investment trust company. Yan yung REIT nga eh. So, Vista Right. It's a new company that needs a supply of capital in order for it to, do its thing. Di ba sinabi natin kanina, ano ulit ang purpose ng pagbebenta sa mga tao ng shares of stock in order for these investors, for these prospective stockholders to fuel fresh capital to the corporation. Kaya ito, for example, let us read. Lalakihan ko. Manila, Philippines. Tycoon Manny Villar is jumping in on the Real Estate Investment Trust or REIT party, aiming to raise 9.2 billion pesos to fund ongoing and future investments of Vista Land. The Securities and Exchange Commission said Villar's Vista Right applied for the initial public offering or IPO of up to 3.3 billion secondary common shares at an offer price of up to 252 pesos and 50 centavos each. Wow, ang mura. Sayang. With an over-allotment option of up to 333.75 million secondary common shares. Vista Right's portfolio includes 10 malls and 2 office buildings with an aggregate gross leasable area of 256,403 square meters and a total appraised value of 35.95 billion. Our community malls, Vista Malls, are located in Las Piñas City, Bacoor City, General Trias City, Imus City, Municipality of Tanza, Antipolo City, City of San Jose del Monte, San Fernando City, and Talisay City. Our office buildings are located in Taguig City and Bacoor City, Vista Right said in its prospectus. Its 2 office properties, Vista Hub Molino and Vista Hub BGC, are registered with the Philippine Economic Zone Authority and are largely sustained by business process outsourcing tenants. The company engaged BDO Capital, China Bank Capital, PNB Capital, RCBC Capital, and SB Capital as joint lead underwriters and book runners for the transaction, with Abacus Capital as participating underwriter. Vista Right aims to offer the shares from April 22 to 28, sayang, and list on the main board of the Philippine Stock Exchange on May 6 under the stock symbol VREIT. A number of things, class. Napapansin ninyo, no? In order to, stoke the flames of interest Kumbaga, para mapukaw ang curiosity at interest ng mga prospective buyers, nag-release ang Vista Right, si Manny Villar, ng prospectus. Na sinasabi niya essentially na wala kayong lugi pag bumili kayo ng shares of stock sa kumpanya namin kasi ang portfolio namin kasama 10 mall, 2 office building, ganito kalaki yung leasable area namin, no? 256,000 plus square meters, marami kaming mall. At ang mga underwriters namin, yung mga mag-i-ensure na safe yung pera, BDO lang naman. China Bank lang naman, 'di ba? RCBC, PNB, etc., etc. In order to, entice people to buy, no? Hindi masasayang yung pera na ibibigay natin para pambili ng shares of stock kasi strong naman yung foundation ng company. Okay? At maganda ang initial public offering nila. For the first time, no? This is the first time that this new company will offer to the public their shares of stock. Ilang shares? 3.3 billion secondary common shares. Yan yung first batch. At ang offer price napakababa, no? And considering that it's a Villar company and considering yung very loaded portfolio nila, maaaki talaga yung mga investors to buy, no? In effect, fueling capital, funneling capital for Vista Right, and in return, giving part ownership of the company to all of these new stockholders. At kapag naubos yung 3.3 billion, meron pang backup na ilang shares? 333 plus million. Ngayon, out of curiosity, tignan natin sa PSE, no? Tignan natin si V Right, no? Hanapin natin. Teka. Siguro sa stock code. Baka kasi, no? Dahil initial posting pa lang siya, hindi pa siya kasama doon sa mismong ranking. Pero tingnan nga natin, no? Meron naman siguro yan. Unless meron silang separate index for the IPOs that I don't know of, no? Anyways, as long as you get the point of IPOs, V-Right. IPO. So ibig sabihin, upcoming pa rin siya, baka nausog. Bilang wala pa siya sa PSE. As of April 24, ikakasa pa lang yung Vista Right. So it only makes sense na wala pa siya sa PSE. So at least kung sakasakali mag-start pala ako na bumili ng shares of stock, hindi pa ako huli. Pwede pa akong bumili nung 250 per share. Nice. Anyway, balik tayo dun sa presentation. So that, class, is what it means when we say that a corporation is going public. So, punong-puno ng fanfare yan. May bagong korporasyon, may bagong korporasyon. At itong korporasyon na to, malakas to, maganda to, worth buying yung stocks nila. Kasi tingnan mo naman kung ano yung meron sila. At dahil nasilaw ka na, na-impress ka na, ngayon bibili ka na ng stocks. At kapag bumili ka ng stocks, yung pinambili mo, mafa-funnel dun sa capital ng korporasyon, and through that additional capital, through that fresh capital, the corporation will now be capable of delivering on its promises. Yan. Now, on the other hand, a corporation going private is one when it would restrict the shareholders to a certain group, which includes close or closely held corporations. Ito yung mga korporasyon na limitado lang yung pwedeng magmay-ari ng shares of stock. Again, like close corporations na normally limited to the family and relatives.